So many of us feel the plague of self-doubt and ask ourselves, why can't we just do the thing? Why is this a part of me? Now, if you've ever asked yourself that question, you're in the right place. My name is Hayden Wilson and welcome to Wealth, Words and Wisdom. If this is your first time here, go ahead and click that like button and consider subscribing so you can be the first to know when I release brand new videos. You're currently sitting in my new YouTube studio, and what you probably don't know is sitting over there is my desk, and for the last month I've been looking at this newly constructed YouTube studio, but the hardest thing is looking over from that desk every single day and having this expectation on myself of, I've got this brand new beautiful studio built, why don't I just go create some videos? And the reality is right now is for a month, a self-doubt plagued me. Was what I was going to say interesting? Will people want to hear it? Because I've got this behind me, then I need to raise my information. I need to be sharing better stuff, more valuable stuff. And are people even going to resonate and like it? And all these questions consistently running around in my head. And I'm assuming that if you are human, you've had the same feelings at somewhere in your life, and you might be thinking, well, what the hell do I do? How do I address this, Hayden? What is self-doubt? How can I get over it? So I thought it'd be useful if I shared my top 5 tips on how you can eliminate self-doubt. Okay, tip number 1 is you are not alone. First of all, everyone feels self-doubt sometime in their life. And there's 2 things we can do with this self-doubt. We can use it productively, or we can adhere to it and become a victim of it, and then it ends up being destructive. I'm much more in the camp of let's use it as fuel to get on top of things. If you're honest with yourself, a lot of the doubt that we feel is actually just in our mind, just thinking we're the only ones that are currently going through this. But I can guarantee you, no matter what you are going through right now, someone somewhere has felt that same way in this exact same capacity. Okay, tip number 2 is to make sure that the goal is actually important to you. So often we can get caught up in other people's goals or thinking we want the result of what other people have, but when we get down to it and we start to do the actual work involved, realize, hey, this isn't actually what I want to do. So the feedback mechanism of self-doubt may actually be serving you to get back on track to what you actually do. So ask yourself that question, is this something that I actually want to do from within, or am I feeling like it's pushed from an external direction? Okay, tip number 3 is to develop the skill. Self-doubt is literally something that you do not have competence in, and so there's 4 levels of human competence that we want to start exploring. So the first stage is unconscious incompetence. So we don't even know what we don't know, and that can't even affect us because we don't even know about it. Then we start to move into conscious incompetence. So we know about it, but we're actually still bad at it because we actually don't have any reps on the board or any practice in that particular skill. Then we move into conscious competence. So we know what we're doing and we're aware that we're building the skill, but the mind still has to focus and still be concentrated on this particular thing. The final stage, what we actually should be working for when we're doing activities, is to move into unconscious competence, where we're so good at what we're doing, we don't even recognize it's to become a skill that we just have inherently in us. In 2013, this may be a little bit hard to believe, but I was extremely shy, very introverted, and I decided for some unknown crazy reason that I wanted to start a podcast. And so I started this podcast. I was sweating. I was so nervous on how I would be perceived or what people would think or if I could really do it. But there was something inside of me that said, Hayden, you just have to go out there and you actually just have to get started. And so I planned it all out, and this is kind of crazy, but I had 12 guests lined up, 1 guest per month. I actually had how long it would take me to do my intro, what questions I would ask. I even tried to anticipate how long the guest would take to answer my question, having no idea what tangents they would go off on or what they would talk about. But in my head, that's what gave me confidence, quasi-confidence in that very moment. Now, if I was asked to interview someone after doing and practicing that skill over 200 times over the last 7 years, it would be a piece of cake. It would be unconscious competence. Okay, tip number 4 is to gather all the information that you need to move forward. A lot of the time, self-doubt stems from you just don't know, and there's so many unknowns. But if we start to plan it out and look at, okay, what are all those unknowns and how can we start to ask our questions? What could possibly come up? A quick Google search can alleviate a lot of the doubt that you might have. Has someone been in this situation before and has written a book about it, or has a YouTube video about it? Or is there someone in our network that we can reach out to on Facebook or Instagram, say, hey, have you been in this situation before? What did you actually do? And often they're very liberal, if they've felt it themselves, they're very liberal with the advice that they might want to give you in that point in time. All right, on to our final tip number 5. And here is maybe the best piece of advice, but also maybe not the piece of advice that you really want in this particular moment, but maybe it's what you need, is just get started. String together the day. Start to build a system where it's one step, one foot in front of the other, and one step at a time rather. So you're starting to build upon your success every single day. You know what? Every single day you will get better, and every single day you'll start to make some mistakes. And so I want you to think about this. Pull out your journal. Think about what I did really well today, what I did not so well and I could do better next time, and start to be an outside observer of what you're actually doing. And so what's going to happen is when you move into that frame is you're going to stop being so critical of yourself, realize that you're human, that everyone makes mistakes, that everyone's on their own learning journey, and that no one out there is actually perfect. And you can start to move progressively towards your goal. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any other strategies that you've personally used that have helped you overcome self-doubt, I would love to hear from you in the comments section below. Otherwise, I'll speak to you again very soon.